Peace, family. Welcome back. I'm back with another one. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. To all my returners, as I always say, I appreciate y'all checking the content out. I wouldn't be able to put this information out there if it wasn't for y'all. Now, I did a video a couple days ago on the origin of slave patrol and the origin of connecting the dots with the slave patrol and the police. And y'all helped me get that video up, so I want to say I thank y'all for that. But this is the white by law, the legal construction of race. Not all Caucasians are white. Who is black, white, or mixed race? And so, like I said, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you're a returning viewer, hit that thumbs up, leave a comment, let me know what you think about the content. So without holding y'all, we're going to jump straight into it. Peace and love, family.
On behalf of Akuno Sanko for Bay, you know what I'm saying? Jay, where you at? We're trying to help our people elevate. Hope. H-O-P-E. We're giving them hope. We doing what we gotta do, you know. Every day, one step at a time, man. We're gonna make it happen. Helping our people elevate. Yeah. Sometimes I practice focus, thought, and meditate. I'm trying to come with other ways to help our people elevate and seeking knowledge, make me levitate. The lifted mental state is what results from how we orchestrate. This for the family's sake. Let's self-reflect and self-evaluate. And every day, make sure the steps you take, you calculate. Receive a master's fate. I know I can't exist without the hate, but that's okay. I balance that with higher self today. Success is on this way, and after that, my flesh can pass away.
All right, so again, this is the white by law, the legal construction of race. Not all Caucasians are white. And so who is black, white, or mixed race? And this is going to be another short one, but we're going to jump straight into it. And so the not white by law is a book by Ian Haney Lopez. Not all Caucasians are white. The Supreme Court rejects citizenship for Asian Indians. Its decision in the U.S. case versus Bagot Singh Thyme in 1923, the Supreme Court deemed Asian Indians ineligible for citizenship because the U.S. law allowed only free whites to become naturalized citizens. And so we're going to jump into this free white persons, naturalization. We're going to dive in to what this is saying. And so for all the new viewers, go check out my Fathers of the Modern Race Paradigm series. I'm on part 9 now. But as you see here on the screen, you see 3 Europeans. From left to right, you have the craniologist Francis Bernier in his book, New Division of the Earth, translated into French, Nouvelle de la Terre. He wrote in 1684. But the title tells you his intent, New Division of the Earth. Then you had Carl Linnaeus in his book, Systemae Naturae. So I'm giving you sources to look this information up. Don't take my words, because I saw a lot of people got offended by my last video, so don't take my words for it. Do the research yourself. But then you have the anthropologist Johann Friedrich Blumenbach, who associated the term white with Caucasian in the 1700s. And so the 1600s, 1700s were a time period of decolonizing, reclassifying, and stripping the people of their original nationality, their inheritance, their birthrights, their land, resources, etc. And these were the fathers of that concept. And so there's a quote that I shortened up myself. It's the manipulation of reality is the manipulation of words. Those who control the language control those who must use it. But it's an original text from Philip K. Dick. The basic tools for manipulation of reality is the manipulation of the words. If you control the meaning of the words, you can control the people who must use them. And so this is why the language and knowing the word is important. As I said, Francis Bernier's New Division of the Earth, or Nouvelle de la Terre, 1684. Well, who was Francis Bernier? Francis Bernier was a French traveler and philosopher who lived in the 17th century. He is often remembered for his early attempts at classifying human races based on physical characteristics in his book, Nouvelle Division de la Terre, par la differente species of race, which translates to the new division of the earth based on different species or races on the earth. Bernier proposed dividing humanity into several categories based on primarily on their skin and other physical features. So let's look at, like I said, he's the father of the concepts white, black, red, brown, yellow people. Again, check out my Father of the Modern Race Paradigm series on my platform, and you'll get more insight on who this guy is and what I'm talking about. But you see here on the screen the term white persons. So according to Berner described the inhabitants of Europe, North Africa, and parts of Asia, like Persia and India, as being of fair or white complexion. He noted variations within this group, but considered them fundamentally parts of the same category. Then you have what he called black people. Again, so this is a European who labeled us, gave us these labels, a French European. But this category primarily includes the sub-Saharan Africa. Bernier noted that darker skin tone associated them with certain physical features like curly hair. As you see, the red people, this belonged to the people in the Americas. The term red was used to describe their skin tone. Brown people, the people of Southeast Asia, including the peoples like the Philippines and Malaysia and Indonesia. And then you had the category for the yellow people, particularly those with Chinese and other similar complexions. So Chinese and Japanese were considered yellow people. And this is him stripping them of their land and what I would call whitewashing. When you look at commercials, you always see the yellows, as he says, yellow complected Japanese or Chinese person, but they don't tell you about the darker complected people that have been in Asia for millions, trillions, thousands of years. Johann Friedrich Blumenbach of 1752 to 1840. Johann Friedrich Blumenbach was a German physician, naturalist, and anthropologist, widely considered for one of the founding figures in anthropology. He is particularly known for his work in the classification of human races, developing a five-race system that influenced scientifics throughout many years. Blumenbach's work in comparative anatomy and physical anthropology contributed significantly to the development of these fields. He was also a professor at the University of Göttingen and a prominent member of the scientific community during his time. And so again, Francis Bernier, Carlos Linnaeus, Johann Friedrich Blumenbach coined these terms: black, white, red, yellow, brown people. These are the fathers of this race concept. Johann Friedrich Blumenbach is credited with coining the term Caucasian to describe people of European descent. In his works on human classification, Blumenbach divided humanity into five races, one of which he named Caucasian, based on the idea that the Caucasus region near present-day Georgia was the origin of this race. He chose the name because he believed the people from the area were the most physically attractive and thus representative of the ideal human form. The term white was often interchangeably with Caucasian in his classification system. His ideas have had a lasting influence, although modern anthropology and genetics have moved away from such classification. The United States formally adopted the term Caucasian into law in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. This term became significant in the context of immigration and naturalization laws. One notable example is the Naturalization Act of 1790, which restricted naturalization to free white persons. The term Caucasian started to be used in legal contexts and court rulings to determine who was eligible for naturalization. And so again, through Johann Friedrich Blumenbach, the courts adopted this term Caucasian or white for European descendants. In particular, the term gained prominence through court decision in the early 20th century. For instance, the 1923 Supreme Court case, United States versus Bagot Singh Thine, ruled that Asian Indians were not Caucasian and thus not eligible for naturalization under the existing law. Despite anthropological classifications that might have considered them Caucasian, the legal use of the term reflected and reinforced racial distinction and restrictions in U.S. law during that period. And so let's analyze the definition naturalized. As I said, this term came from the United States adopted the term white persons with the Naturalization Act. So let's analyze the term naturalized. And this is from the Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. So that's my source. Again, don't take my word for it. This is research. You can do your own research. Black's Law Edition, 4th edition. Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. So the definition and citation for naturalized: to confer citizenship upon an alien, to make a foreigner the same in respect to rights and privileges as if he were a native citizen or subject. This is why you have all these Europeans claiming to be Native American. Oh, my grandfather is Indian. Oh, I'm Indian. It's through the Naturalization Act, the Dawes Roll, $5 Indians, and there's more I could go into, but I didn't put all it on here. But according to the Black's Law Dictionary, naturalization is the process of granting citizenship to a foreigner or alien and giving them the same rights and privileges as a native citizen. This can also refer to a government taking over a foreign nation's territory and granting its citizens citizenship rights. This can occur through a treaty, cession, or legislation. And so we must understand that these people claiming to be, or the people that's always saying, go back to Mexico, go back to Africa. Through the Naturalization Act, you were granted privileges and rights on my ancestral land. Why are they not teaching this in the school systems? Why don't they teach nationality in the school systems? For all those who have a problem with what I'm putting out here, comment your nationality in the comment section. If you claim to be African American or you claim to be African, there are 54 nations in the continent of Africa. Which nation do you come from? If you claim to be white, as I said, it comes with the Naturalization Act. So you're not that. So what's your nationality? Before 1492, where were your ancestors? We're going to get deeper. And so this is from the U.S. Census Bureau. But the U.S. Census Bureau uses a particular definition of white that differs from some colloquial uses of this term. The Bureau defines white people to be those having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. So when African people come over here and they set up shops and stores, or Arab people come over here and they set up shops and stores, they check white as their race or their status? Again, don't take my word for it. Look it up. When you go to the gas station, you go to a store, ask one of them people, what do they check in the box? Don't come on here debating, trying to argue with me about something you haven't researched. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, people who have origins in Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa are considered white. This includes people who identify as white or who report other races such as Irish, German, Italian, Lebanese, Arab, Moroccan, or Caucasian. Now, I'm going to repeat these again because when I go into this definition, I want y'all to understand it's about your status. There's no such people as black and white. These are legal statuses. Not all Caucasians are white, as I said in the opening of my presentation. But it says, people who report other races such as Irish, German, Italian, Lebanese, Arab, Moroccan, or Caucasian. And as you see in the chart on the right side, number 7, what is this person's race? Where it says white, German, Irish, English, Italian, Lebanese, Egyptian, etc. Egyptians? Oh, I'm making this up, huh? No, I'm not making this up. Now, let's look at the Naturalization Act of 1870. Let's look at the free white persons in the Naturalization Act of 1870. As amended July 14, 1870, it was first used in the Statute 103C3, meaning all persons belonging to the European races, then commonly counted as white, and their descendants, including such descendants in other countries to which they are immigrated. To which they immigrated. Pay attention. It includes all European Jews, more or less intermixed with peoples of Celtic, Scandinavian, Teutonic, Iberian, Latin, Greek, and Slavic descent. Now, didn't I mention the Slavics in my last video? The people were upset about? So these same people that were upset about the slaves, the origin of slave is Slavic people. the people of Eastern, Southern, and West or Northern Europe. It includes Magyars, Lapps, and Finns, and the Basque and Albanians. It also includes mixed Latin, Celtic, Iberian, and Moorish inhabitants of Spain and Portugal, the mixed Greek and Latin Phoenicians and North African inhabitants of Sicily, and the mixed Slav and Tatar inhabitants of South Russia. Boom. So going back to what I just said right here, let's go back to it. Right here. This is the Census Bureau. Irish, German, Italian, Lebanese, Arabs, Moroccans, Caucasians, people of Europe, Middle East, and North Africa. So it's saying the same people in the U.S. Census and in the Law Dictionary. Again, Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. Don't take my word for it. Look it up yourself. But if we go further under the line, it says it does not mean Caucasian race, Aryan race, or Indo-European races, nor the mixed Indo-European, Dravidian, Semitic, or Mongolian people who inhabited Persia. So it does not mean Caucasian race. And this is, again, the 1870 Naturalization Act. So in 1870, Europeans were not classified as white, but people of Moorish or mixed Latin, or I'm going to just say the dark-skinned people in 1870 were classified as white. And under the Naturalization Act, it allowed foreigners to be classified as white. And we're going to go into that. How are we going to get to that? Let's look at the next one. This is from the same Black's Law Dictionary. This is the white person's definition. So first we went over free white persons, 2 different words. Free white persons, and then you have white persons, which came with the Naturalization Act of 1790. So the Naturalization Act was March 26, 1790, Statute 103 as amended, February 18, 1875, members of the white or Caucasian race as distinct from the black, red, yellow, and brown races. There go those 5 colors again. Carlos Linnaeus, Francis Berner, and Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. So the United States adopted, let's go back to it. They adopted their concepts into law. This ain't something I made up. This is something that I'm presenting because I did the research. And so white persons, members of the white or Caucasian race as distinct from the black, red, yellow, and brown races. So what is the Naturalization Act of 1790? The Naturalization Act of 1790, enacted on March 26, 1790, established the first uniform rule for granting U.S. citizenship through naturalization. What was the eligibility? Only free white people who had lived in the U.S. for at least 2 years and were of good character could be granted citizenship. This excluded Native American enslaved people. So the so-called blacks that think they're from Africa, America, and the United States are Native American enslaved people. Indentured servants, which were the Slavics, free Africans, which some were Moors, Pacific Islanders, and the non-white Asians. So there were white Asians and non-white Asians. 1790, 1700. So wasn't nobody watching this born during that time frame. So don't come on here trying to disagree. Do your research. This 1790 Act set the new nation's naturalization procedures. It limited access to U.S. citizenship to white immigrants, in effect to people from Western Europe who had resided in the U.S. at least 2 years and their children under 21 years of age. It also granted citizenship to children born aboard to U.S. citizens. So, again, to even be classified as a citizen, you had to be here. The Europeans had to be here at least 2 years and in good character to be classified as a white person. Let's continue. Like I said, I don't give you no, oh, this is just my opinion. I'm giving you facts. Look this information up yourself. The manipulation of the reality is the manipulation of words. As I said, those who control the language control those who must use it. And so this is English. This is the England language. No English, but anyway, let's continue. As you see here, Webster's Dictionary, 1828, unabridged dictionary. So this was one of the first, one of the unrewritten, one of the unchanged. And we look at the word American. It is a noun. A native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginal or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to descendants of Europeans born in America. So how does it apply to the Europeans born in America? Through the Naturalization Act. Their ancestors had to be here at least 2 years. And then you had what's called the $5 Indians with the Dawes Rolls. Look up the Oklahoma Land Rush, the Kansas Land Rush. How did they get here? And some will say, "Oh, quit complaining." I'm not complaining. I'm giving my people the truth. So there's no complaints. We just speaking the facts. And it's time to reclaim what belongs to the original people. So as you look at the images from left to right, as I said in all my other videos that I've ever done like these, they had paint in various colors of shades back then. So if these people were of pale complexion as we see today, then why didn't they paint them look like that back then? If you see the image in the mirror in the middle, it says America. You see the brother, you see the European holding him up on his shoulders. The image on the left, you see the brothers, you see the melanated people with the pipe. So we had tobacco back then for those who may or may not have known. But as I said, the American Indian slaves, as I mentioned earlier, or the Indian slaves, you see the image on the right. The Afro-Indian slave result from the Anglo-Indian War, 1610, 1614. So they knew that the dark-skinned, copper-complected people were here before Columbus. In Columbus's journal, he talks about the dark-skinned people he saw here. Why don't they teach us in the school systems? Now, going deeper into it, the court concealed that Indians were Caucasians and that anthropologists considered them to be of the same race as white Americans. But they argued that the average man knows perfectly well that there are unmistakably and profound differences. The Thine decision also led to successful efforts to denaturalize some who had previously became citizens. So what was the outcome of the United States versus Thine? Following the Supreme Court decision, Bagot Singh Thine, the American citizenship was revoked by the Bureau of Naturalization. Number 46, not only were new citizenships not granted, 65, South Asian Americans who possessed citizenship before the Thine decision had their citizenship revoked between 1923 and 1927. When was the Great Depression? So you understand what was going on during this time frame. The Black Wall Street Massacre, 1921. What was the government doing during this time frame? Whose rights were being stripped and who was giving those rights to foreigners? You had what was called the California Alien Land Law. And this represented a particular threat in California where a 1913 law prohibited alien ineligibility for citizenship for owning or leasing land. Only in 1946 did Congress, which was beginning to recognize that Indians would also be independent and a major world power, pass a new law that allowed Indians to become citizens and also establish a small immigration quota. But major immigration to the United States from South Asia did not begin until after immigration laws were sharply revised in 1965. So, ask your elders about the 1960s when the Asian laws were passed and the immigration of Asians came to the Americas. But if you go back before then, they had the cartoons where they were making fun of them with the big teeth and the slanty eyes. But California had passed the Alien Land Law of 1913, also known as the Webb-Haney Act, which prohibited non-citizens who were eligible for citizenship from owning or leasing agricultural land. The law was a response to white landowners' fear of economic competition, and while the language is not explicitly racial, it primarily targeted Japanese immigrants. The law permitted leases of up to 3 years, but in 1920, further restrictions were added, making any lease agreement with an ineligible alien illegal. The Supreme Court upheld the law as constitutional in the early 1920s. And so again, Asians, Arabs, and African people of North Africa were considered white. Has nothing to do with skin tone. It's all about your status. The word Caucasian is a scarcely better repute. It is at best a conventional term with an altogether ferocious origin, which under scientific manipulation has come to include far more than unscientific minds suspect. According to Keene, for example, it includes not only the Hindu, but some of the Polynesians. That is the Maori, Tahitian, Samoan, Hawaiians, and others. The Hamites of Africa, upon the grounds of the Caucasus, cast of their features, though in color they range from brown to black. And so it's telling you that these people still have that status, even though their complexion is along the ranges of brown and black. So even though they have a dark skin complexion, they still identify them as white. So we venture to think that the average well-informed white American would learn with some degree of astonishment that the race of which he belongs is made up of which heterogeneous elements. So you would think that most Europeans would learn that these are made-up terms. And so what is heterogeneous racial? It's something made up of different elements or parts, or to describe two things that are different from each other. Because they can say they're white, they can say we're black, but you look at your skin, we're neither or. And again, grade school grammar, black and white are adjectives. They are not human beings. They cannot be people. People cannot be crayon color. I tell this to my daughter all the time. But what does homogeneous mean in race? So according to the term, when we're dealing with race, what is homogeneous? Made up of the same kind of people or thing, the term homogeneous describes a group of people who are similar in many significant ways. The word comes from the Greek homogenes, which means of the same kind. Then we go into, in its first word of the subject of citizenship, Congress in 1790 restricted naturalization of white persons. So it went from free white persons to white persons. The requirements for naturalization changed frequently thereafter. This racial prerequisite of citizenship endured for over a century and a half, remaining in force until 1952. From the earliest years of this country until just a generation ago, being a white person was a condition for acquiring citizenship. So up until 1952, being a white person was a condition for acquiring citizenship. Up until 1952, being a white person was a condition for acquiring citizenship. So they haven't even been called white that long. That also goes back to the Jim Crow era, where you have the whites and coloreds only. And so it's showing you like, so who were they before then? What were they called before the 50s? Whether one was white, however, was often no easy question. As immigration reached identity in order to naturalize, from 1907, when the federal government began collecting data for naturalization, until 1920, over 1 million people gained citizenship under the racially restrictive naturalization laws. Over 1 million people gained citizenship under the racially restrictive naturalization laws. Many more sought to naturalize and were rejected. Naturalization rarely involved formal court proceedings and therefore usually generated few and any written rationals appear in the first prerequisite case in the Ab decided in 1878 by federal district court in California. Common knowledge, rationals appealed to popular, widely held conceptions of races, and racial division. Francis Bernier. For example, the Ab court denied citizenship to a Chinese applicant in part because of the popular understanding of the term white person. The meaning in common popular speech, and they are consistently used in the sense of acquired in the literature of the country, as well as in common parlance. Under a common knowledge approach, courts justify the assignment of petitioners to one race or another by reference to common belief about race. And so they base it on their belief, their acceptance, but there's no proof. And so this is just a copy of the petition that I had on the bottom of the screen, just showing you that this is what their petitions looked like for citizenship. And as you see here, you see the European immigrants on the boat that wanted to get away from their conditions because the conditions that they were in were horrible conditions. And so they were petitioning for citizenship. This is the immigration records of 1906. And so with that being said, I'm going to end it right here. Like I said, I appreciate you checking the content out. I'll go a little bit more deep. I do have more I want to get into, but I'll do a part 2 on this. If you like the content, leave a comment, hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share the content. Let me know, hey, if you feel like I missed something or you want to add something on to it, like I said, hit that comment button, hit that comment section, and I'll catch you on the next one, family. Peace and love.